Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server, but we're looking at something slightly different. It is the leaks that are from this dev server. This is from a leaker who has a very, very high success rate. So it's always interesting having a look at what this individual has put down. And so far, it looks like it's a bunch of drone stuff, some more vehicles, and also a million different infantry pieces once again. So we're going to have a look through this. We're going to have a chat about all of the stuff that was leaked, and also there will be a bunch of content looking at all the other dev server stuff over the next couple of days. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. So first of all, there are some vehicles that have been leaked. These are pretty much the same as ones that we've talked about before. So we have the EFVP-1. Obviously, Gaijin said there was going to be an amphibious American vehicle that will be coming in. Seems like this one has been leaked like 2 or 3 times now, and to be honest, there isn't that many other options, so looks like that one's going to be coming. We also have the VN1C, which is something we've talked about previously, the pretty fun vehicle which has the ZLT chassis, but then has a kind of weapon system on the top of it, which is more similar to what you'd find on an IFV or an AFV, with a kind of 30mm and then also maybe some missiles. That's going to be coming in for China. And then also, once again, the controversial leak has happened with the VT4 for Japan. Now, if you remember, Gaijin said that this update, the TIE subtech tree for Japan, will not get the VT4. This doesn't mean that it won't come in the future, which is basically what this leak is saying. It just means that it won't come in right now. The reason why the Gaijin guys always phrase this like they do, as in this is not happening at this moment, is because in the past they've said stuff like this isn't happening, and it has then happened at a later date. This literally happened with submarines, which is probably the most recent example, where a community manager came out and was like, nah, they're not working on submarines, there's been no information about them, and then literally like maybe a month or 2 later, there was a Q&A from BVD, which was like, yeah, we've been working on them for ages, and we're going to bring them in. So it's just one of those things which generally happens. So with this VT4, obviously the Thai nation or Thailand does use the VT4, so it makes sense for them to get it. But adding it at the time of the 80th celebration of basically the Chinese defeating the Japanese in something which still causes tension to this day was probably not a great idea. But at the same time, there is Chinese equipment in the Japanese tech tree, and also vice versa. So eventually it wouldn't be a surprise if this kind of comes. So in general, this leak makes sense, and as we've talked about, it's just one of those things where the timing is off, and it's unfortunate because I really wish real-world politics didn't have to be taken into account when it comes to these things. But if you actually had a look at the Chinese side of the forums when it came to the VT4 leak in the first place, you can understand why Gaijin do take into account all of these things. There was literally a guy on the Chinese side of War Thunder who was saying that if Gaijin added the VT4 to the Thai subtree in the Japanese tech tree, it would be a great offense to the Chinese nation, and he would report Gaijin as a company to his local government and get them banned in China because of the fact that there is a bunch of laws about disrespecting China and Chinese culture. So this guy, who actively plays War Thunder and enjoys War Thunder, would have rather seen it banned because of the fact one of the Chinese vehicles was put in a tech tree he didn't like. That's literally the kind of level of interesting individual that Gaijin has to deal with at this point in time. They're also adding in kill mark decals for aircraft, ground vehicles, tanks, and also weapons, which is interesting. And this is something that we've talked about for a long time. One of the coolest systems that World of Tanks has that War Thunder doesn't have is the victory mark system, where basically if you do really well in a specific vehicle in World of Tanks, you actually end up getting some kind of marks on its barrel, which basically show that you have mastered the vehicle. In War Thunder, you have the Ace Crews, and you obviously have the camouflages and also the achievements attached to vehicles, but you don't really have a way of kind of physically showing, hey, look, I actually do well in this. I want to kind of show my bravado and be like, hey, look, I'm prideful of this. And it would be really cool to see victory marks, and we kind of have some of them. In the data mine, it talked about some victory mark changes, some decals coming in, but unfortunately, I couldn't find them on the dev server. Maybe they're under a different name, and hopefully we do get some kind of kill marks. And as we've talked about many times, one of the areas that has been super successful for Gaijin is, of course, the Gaijin market. They've made a ton of money off of it, and also people really enjoy the camouflages. Of course, there's a lot of people addicted to the gambling part of it, and this means that they could sell, let's say, special camos or low percentage camos, which maybe they have connected to them, a kill system. So what it does is it actually shows on the camouflage how many kills you have actually got, and that would be different from the standard camouflage, which would be another step towards kind of Counter-Strike's setup, which has been probably the most successful skin market in the history of gaming. There's also more infantry stuff coming in. You may remember the last kind of dev server we had where it was confirmed, well, confirmed's not the right word, but it was talked about from the same leaker that infantry was coming to War Thunder. And that was because they added a bunch of stuff in there from basically infantry stuff. So a bunch of weapons, you know, a bunch of equipment, a bunch of sights and things like that. And it seems like that has continued. So they've added a bunch of infantry armor, ammo, explosives, and also medical boxes, which is interesting. Plus just a bunch of weapons and also even attachments and types, such as underbarrel shotgun, stuff like thermal sights, and even things like the Scotopia S350F. The individual does actually talk about the fact that these seem to be the same assets, which are in enlisted and also in active matter. So for some reason, they're bringing them over to War Thunder, and the only reason for that would be to actually, use them in the game. If you don't know what Enlisted is, it's another Gaijin product developed on the Dagor engine. It is a free-to-play FPS in the World War II era. It's based around squad mechanics, and it actually is pretty decent. The only issue with it is it's kind of destroyed by the vehicles that they put in it, and also all of the crazy mechanics, but it's still getting actively updated and still has a player base. You then also have Active Matter. Active Matter is a Tarkov clone set in a slightly different universe. So it's basically a loot shooter where you go around a map and then you basically take what you can and then try and get to the kind of escape point. Very similar to stuff, as I said, like Tarkov, and also very similar to The Division, which kind of popularized this idea with its, I think it was called the Dark Zone or the Red Zone, whatever it was. And so basically, Active Matter is in development, and they're moving over a lot of the assets from it into War Thunder itself, which is pretty interesting. So they're either going to be decorations or decals or stuff like that, or, as I said, they're going to actually be used when it comes to the infantry of the game, which would be pretty sick. The next thing, which could also be part of the infantry part, no, don't do it, is an expansion of drones. Now, right now in War Thunder, we have the missile drones, you know, stuff which is pretty powerful and very annoying. Stuff like the Wing Long and the Orion, and also stuff like the MQ-1 Predator. We also have the little recon boys, which they have specifically added, more abilities to, being able to scout in the air. And now we have for America an FPV drone, a kamikaze drone, and also another recon drone. And for Russia, you have the FPV drone, the recon drone, and also a kamikaze drone. So they might get to a point where they're bringing in something which, to be honest, wouldn't be exactly very fun. A bunch of more ways of randomly dying that you can't do anything about. If you've been following the recent conflicts in the world, especially the invasion of Ukraine, you will see how drone warfare has taken the world by storm and basically is one of the leading areas that people are pumping money into. When it comes to the Chinese parade that they did recently as well, over the last week or so, there was a lot of drones and also automated systems that was shown in the parade. Of course, when it comes to Gaijin and their march forward in War Thunder, and the fact that they want to realistically and historically kind of show what combat is in a video game format, they are going to add these types of things. And it just kind of makes me sad because of all the videos that I've had the unfortunate force to see, which kind of shows what these kamikaze drones can do. But if they expand when it comes to the infantry stuff, or even if they don't, we have so many light vehicles nowadays in War Thunder that what's going to end up happening is these specific things are going to take over and just bizz and buzz and bang. It's just another march towards more and more mechanics, another march towards more and more things for people to play, and we'll have to see how it generally does. Hopefully you'll enjoy the drone trench and also all of the other weapons that come with it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.